Hello, everyone. My name is Maureen McDowell, and I'm the founder and executive director of Keep St. Pete Lit. We are a literary arts organization based in Saint Petersburg, Florida, and this is episode 27 of Typewriter Talks. Wow, we've been doing this half a year already. With us, we have Gio Typos. He's a local poet and a mastermind of street poetry. Yeah, is that a good way to say it?
I like it. I like mastermind.
Yeah. And Typewriter Talks is a weekly online series where we go inside the brains of local writers and kind of get their tricks and tips about the writing process and just to learn more about them. So, Gio, thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us what you're working on right now.
Right now I'm doing, let's see, I have a lot of things I'm working on actually. I just mainly I'm working on writing poetry for people as it comes in. I have a little children's book that I'm also working on too. That's going to be fun. But yeah, just trying to get out on the street again and really just be kind of like a staple of the sidewalk. You know, I really enjoy like being out there and like just, it's something about being on the street and writing poetry for people that for some reason I find calming.
So how did that idea come up for you to do that?
So how it started was I was fixing typewriters. I was kind of buying them and selling them and then fixing them. I had always been interested in typewriters for like 10 years.
Yeah.
So like, I would say like 10, 11 years ago, I started buying typewriters. Mm-hmm. And then I went out west and I saw this young lady on a typewriter. Her name's Shannon. She has been in the area before. Yeah. And I saw her and I was like, what are you doing? She was like, I'm writing poetry. I'm like, so I got a poem from her. And then I came back, I was just like, I can do that. So I decided I was going to put the kind of the mechanic part aside and I was going to go directly to the street and write poetry for people until enough people told me that I was no good. That was kind of the plan. That was the business plan. Enough people tell me no good, go back to mechanic work.
Oh, that's hysterical. But so, no one told you were no good. You kept at it.
No, I kept at it. I might have had a few people, you know, I've done it at some bars. And I think that's maybe not my scene, late night bars. Yeah. People are funny.
What are you doing? You're horrible.
Yeah. What is this? And
I think it's better than you.
I've had that. I've had people try to be like, I could do that. And I'm like, you should. You want to sit down?
Yeah.
Oh, I have to go. So yeah, I mean, it's just really fun being out there. People are interesting. And if you allow them to be vulnerable, they will be. Like, I don't, you know, it's pretty cool. People will like tell you their life.
Wow.
So it's good.
So how do you, when you sit down to write a poem, do you ask them questions about themselves or do you say, give me a prompt, or how does it?
So how it works is you'll see me out there and I'll say, give me a topic, a word, any type of subject matter that you want it to be based around. And that's usually, I don't like picking it because I want it to be a co-creation. Like I want it to be us making something together. So I try not to let me pick it because otherwise it's not us making it. And I usually tell them if it's something like, try to make it something that's, you know, that you have an emotional connection to. Cause I really feel like it's like, sometimes I'm like a little bit of a conduit and I'm picking up on things and so when they're emotionally connected to it, then I can be emotionally connected to it and we can really create something nice. So usually that's how it is. A lot of times people will either undershare or overshare. But a lot of times it's like 2 or 3 words that they'll give me and then they'll kind of give me like a little backstory. I don't really try to tell people not to tell me things. Yeah. Like I'm not like, hey, don't tell me anymore. Yeah. I just like let people talk it through and then it turns out good. I even like it sometimes. I used to not like it when people would interrupt me when I was writing because I was in the flow. But now I've come to find that when people interrupt me, there may be something that I need to know for the poem. And that's actually helped me out in ways where I stop, I listen to the person, and then I go back, something comes from that interaction that needed to go in there. So it's like one big swirling co-creation on the street.
That's awesome. And it's very present moment. Like you have to be, because you did a poem on the spot for our poetry open mic that we host the last Wednesday of the month at the Studio 620. And it was like, you just said, people just threw words out.
Yeah.
And like created this. And it was so like, such a cool poem. That was awesome.
It was fun. Heathen and I think sentient or heathen and something. I remember it because it was like, yeah, I remember. Yeah. It was like something about, I remember parts of it, but I remember being that because I was like one of the first times that like I kind of did it in front of an audience. I'm usually doing it just in front of like one or two people, never like in front of multiple people, which, I'd like to bring back at some point because that's always fun. But it's something about being on the spot, like, kind of really just, I don't know, I like it. Like I said, I don't know, some people may not enjoy it. I find the pressure to be like kind of invigorating.
Well, it's like, what is it called? What is it? Improv.
Yeah, improv.
Yeah, like right on the, and it's cool. Like I wanted you to be on Typewriter Talks to show like, you literally took the poetry to the streets, and I mean, you've done like weddings, right? Where you're there and you've gone to corporate events with our dear friend, Randy Rosenthal, who also does typewriters with Paper Seahorse. He sells typewriters there. And so it's, I'm glad to hear that you're like putting cause you moved away for a while and then now you can put your energy back into it. And
yeah, we moved away for a while because we wanted to see if the farmhand life was going to be, but I'm a beach bum at heart. You know what I mean? I'll go back and write and hang out up there, but like I like the sun. I like, yeah, I mean, like it was nice up there, but like again, it's like there's something about St. Pete specifically.
Yeah.
And then, I think it's got a lot of really great energy. So
yeah.
We came back. Yeah, we came back specifically. I got married, and so I had my wedding here. And then when we were here, we were like, okay, we got to come back. Why did we move?
Yeah.
And so it was cool. We tried it, and and that was not for us. So now we know we're beach dwellers.
Yeah, and the sunshine too. Like that was the hard
yeah.
thing. When I lived in Asheville for 8 years, and by the 8th season, my husband at the time was like, we're not doing this anymore. Like I was just so depressed. Because it's like when you grow up here, we have 4 million days of sunshine.
You do.
Cold, and it's like I'm Irish, so I'm not about being in the sun, but it's just the fact that the sun is shining is so,
It's true. Yeah, when we were in Georgia, I didn't realize how much it rained. Like I was like, and I was talking to one of the locals, and they were like, "Oh yeah, last year we got more rain than Seattle," and I was like, "I wish someone would have told me that before I moved here."
We get it too. Like we get rainy days, but they come at like 4:00 and they only last for like a little bit. Like occasionally we'll get like the monsoon week where it's like 7 days in a row and all of us are like, I can't handle this. But
it seriously affects us. I swear to God.
I know. So other than the street poetry, what is your writing process? Do you set aside a certain time at night? Are you a morning writer?
Morning writer, 100%. Or, I mean, morning writer, it's really kind of whenever I feel inspired to write, but a lot of times the morning, like right when I wake up, like I like to not be bothered by anything and then go straight into the writing. It's something about, I think, maybe just waking up, and then, so it's like a kind of like a clean slate. And so then I can kind of start my day like that. And then just writing, trying not to procrastinate when it comes to like people will send me like prompts online to write. So instead of like, sometimes I would wait to write, and then like, I was like, why would I wait to write? Just do it. And so just in the morning right away, and then just let it fly. I'm a big fan of like being on the street and writing whatever I want to write when I'm out there, like staying completely busy. Because it's like automatic writing. Yeah. Like I'll type away anything that comes to mind. And it allows me to get into that flow state. But a lot of times, like I'll come up with some really interesting stuff. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, wow, I can't believe I thought like that. And like I let it come from anywhere. Like it can be super inspiring or dark and gloomy, but
you're plugged in to whatever the creative principle.
Yeah, it's fun. I there's like automatic writing is where it's at. You know, the poetry book that I want to do is gonna just be a bunch of poems I've already written from the street and just like, you know, kind of like colorful. So I mean, that's really I don't really take a long time to write poetry because I think that's just not never been my style.
Mm-hmm. So you also did some kind of art installation at your house, correct? Where you
Yep.
hung poetry on your fence that people can come and take a poem?
Correct. So I had so it's a little different now, but I did have a fence out that I put in front of my house, and when everything was kind of shut down or whatever, people would just walk by the house because it's, you know, we're right by Crescent Lake,
Mm-hmm.
and I would just put poems out there, and I would just let people take whatever they wanted, and I said, you know, I said take them, and if some people would like donate or they wouldn't, it really wouldn't matter. It was just so people could come by and have like maybe something to do, you
Yeah.
know, like be like, hey, let's walk and go get a poem. And I didn't realize how many people were taking poems because I had like kind of stopped it for a little bit because I was like trying to keep up, and
Yeah.
it was getting a little tough. But then I filled it up again, and it just went, and I was like, oh, cool. So now I actually built. I went to Home Depot, got some posts, and made my own kind of like makeshift one. So it's in the ground because I was having problems
Oh,
with the wind would blow that thing across.
oh yeah.
So so now it's up, and it's, you know, I'm just filling it up. It's probably got like 15 poems on it now, and I take sometimes I'll post little suggestion box, and then people can put their own little you know, if they want me to write them like a short little blip or whatever, and I'll put it out there and they can take it. I wrote one about a meteor shower the other day, and it's really is like it's fun because I'm not really writing for me as much as I'm like
Yeah.
I inherently have to write. It's just been something that I've always
Me
like
too.
had to do. Like if I don't do it, like I'm energetically stuck. Like
Mhm.
and so if I don't get it out, it's not gonna be the house is gonna feel you're gonna feel my energy in the
Yeah.
house. And
It's
so
dangerous. It's dangerous for anyone in my sphere if I'm not writing. Like
right.
I'm not a healthy person to be around.
It
Yeah.
so it's good because I have like this like I have this like endless supply of people being like, hey, you know, like, can you write this for me? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And then there it goes. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, it's just, you know, it's fun. I mean, I have a lot of great stories from the road that just like kind of, that just reinstates the, like the importance of what I'm doing, even though it can kind of look funny, you know what I mean? Like on the street, some guy with a typewriter, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you're really in the human condition. You're having interactions with people. It's like being in an elevator with somebody and you happen to have like this really profound conversation just
Mhm.
going down like 20 floors or whatever, and you're just like, "Whoa, that just like changed my whole day or week," you know?
Yeah, and that's really what I'm out there doing. It's like you know, on my Instagram, you know, I put, you know, my name, I put even though it says Geo's Typos in the bio, I say I'm the dopamine dealer. So like, you know, I'm out there, you know, uplifting the community as much as I can with poetry and just like, and it's kind of fun. I enjoy being the weird person out on the street. You know, I don't ever have a problem with that. I find it very
You have a whole outfit. You have your hat and
yeah.
you have this warmth and you have a lot to give. So, and then
Yeah.
it's like, look at him. Who's this guy? And you're very committed to it.
Yes,
In it, committed to it. Yeah.
yeah, that was, you know, and that's really, I think, what kind of shows is like I've never really found something that I've been one to stay committed to.
Yeah.
And this is like the one thing I think that I was like, this is it. I have burned my boats. I'm not doing anything else. You know, we'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad. Yeah, it's like I have a poem that on the side of it says poetry saved my life, and it really did. You know what I mean? Because like this whole time, you know, you could look and look and look for something that you want to do, and and I found it. And so like everything else like is just everything else became brighter because of it.
Yeah. And who knew, like, you don't really go to career fairs and to be a street poet.
No. Oh my God, no way.
Right?
People think I mean, I meet people all the time. They're like, "Oh, what do you do?" I was like, "I'm a street poet." They're like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "Well, I write poetry in the street for people, you know." And they're like, "Oh, okay." You know, like it's just funny. But when you see me out and you see me doing it, like for instance, I have a really fun story. There was this guy who kind of like, you get sometimes these people who want to like see like examples. Like, do you have an example? See before I buy. And I'm like, this is not
You should
mattress
have
firm.
a jacket like your watch guy, and you have
Yeah.
things in it. Here you go. Here's a sample. I think
Yeah.
that would be hysterical.
Oh, I should do that. And it's getting to the point where it's going to cool down. So maybe I will.
Yeah.
But I had this guy and I was just like, I don't have examples. Do you have Instagram? And he's like, I don't have Instagram. I'm like, I wrote a poem for that lady. You could read that. Finally, he was just like, okay, I want you to write me a poem about my boat. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me a little about your boat. Like, he's like, well, I live on it with my wife. I'm like, cool. Like, do you plan on getting off this boat? He's like, I'm going to die on this boat. And I was like, now I know that this boat. And I wrote him this poem and he stood there and he read it and he broke down in tears. And, you know, from the doubter to the crier. And I was just like, this is worth it. You know?
Yeah.
So it was,
yeah.
because I could feel it, you know, I could feel like,
Yeah.
and you know, I've never felt like I'm gonna die on something on the boat, but like I could imagine like this is it, this is the end of. So it was like really cool. I could connect with someone, and he just like bawled, and I was like, you know, and then there I am. You know, there's a Saturday morning market, so it was just kind of really cool.
I love it when you can turn the doubters into the criers.
Oh, I know. You know, so apprehensive, and then they're like, wow, I didn't
have examples. That's hysterical.
Yeah.
You should have a little booklet of examples and hand them to them.
I should, like, in a little photo album.
I do like the jacket idea.
I actually enjoy that quite a bit.
I think you could just, I think have them just stapled or paper clipped in or somewhere sewn in, just so you know, have a jacket that has poems sewn in. That's a whole other level of right of art installation, like your poetry clothes. Oh God, I'm going nuts. See how my brain. See, this is what happens.
Well, I did that at the at that event we had. Remember, I taped words to my jacket. Yeah. So that's a great idea. I think I'm gonna do that. Like
have it on your back, and then you just stand up and turn around.
Yeah.
Or open your hat, and there's one inside your hat. I mean,
I actually have one of those flip open like chain watches, so maybe I'll just it will be like the whole deal.
Many ideas. You could have it in a little glass bottle and pull. You know, we're going in tangent world here.
There we go.
So for your do you have major themes, or is it basically just like about life that your poetry is about?
Yes, I mean, major theme is obviously love and love, happiness, you know, all that stuff that people kind of like they're feeling and they want to know. But my major theme is trying to I don't really see, like, I see imagery when I write, so it's like I've never really I'm trying to I like see pictures more so than I do, and then I try to write the words to the pictures. Okay. So a lot of times when it comes to themes, it's mainly love, but I honestly my main thing is trying to connect with what they think is what they've given me a word, and like, what does that mean to them? Yeah. And but yeah, I've had so many, you know what I mean? I've had people give me so much. Like, one guy gave me "My back hurts," you know, and I'm like, okay, like, your back hurts. I guess I'll write something on that. But yeah, love, friendship, inspiration, motivation, you know, I think fears, things like that, you know, trying to, you know, anything that has to do with maybe like someone's moving from transitioning from one part of their life to the next part of their life. Well, I get a lot of that. Let me see. Someone came to me the other day. I was at Craft. Bubby was their word. And I was like, what's Bubby? And they're like, oh, we're our friends. We just call each other Bubby. And I'm like, interesting, because I call my cats Bubs. So like, I'm like, hey, Bubs. And so I get it. It's like endearing and like, so, and I try to make sure that when they are giving me something, either that it's, if they want something emotional, they give me something emotional.
Yeah.
And if they want something funny, then give me something funny. You know what I mean?
That's cool. I love that. So what would be the advice you'd give to your younger writer self when you're just starting out with this? What advice would you give yourself?
Just start, because it took me a really long time to figure out to get here, because I started writing when I was like 9. I started writing poems for my grandfather. Like we have it at the house. I wrote a poem, and then, life went on, and like and then societal pressures came down to being like, you should be a physical therapist. You should be a data analysis. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to do that. And I didn't really want to go to school, but I did like writing. So I think if I could start, because really it took me a long time to be like, hey, you have something, just share it and go and start with it, because you can get better, and you can then, and now I look at things like, going to classes or reading certain books and kind of figuring out how to be more knowledgeable in the craft. That came once I decided that was the thing I was going to do.
Yeah.
So starting was really, because I waited so long in fear that, like, because I didn't, go to like a college, that like I wouldn't be seen as someone who had anything to offer.
Yeah, that is very, a narrative in our society, that you have to follow one path and do it one specific way to be successful or be a master. And I think it really just comes down to like, I just posted the Saturday, I mentioned it to you or before we started this, the Jack White on Saturday Night Live, like just did, he was just on Saturday Night Live this last weekend, and I've watched the video like 3 times, and he's like ghostly white. And it's like, this guy just like is in his house, just like figuring shit out, like, and it's like, did he go to school for this? And he might have, but I think he was just in bands and like growing up in the punk rock scene. Like you just figure shit out. Like you try it. It sounds fun. If it doesn't work, you let it go. You learn from your failures, you learn from your mistakes. But I mean, I don't think there's one right way to be a writer. And that's what we really try to show here on Typewriter Talks. Everybody's got a different path. And if you had gone that, I mean, you wouldn't be doing what you love now. What college is going to tell you to be a street poet?
Yeah, I don't think any of them would have. It would have been I probably would have ended up in a company doing something that maybe I wasn't really interested in, or, however, because now I get to kind of like, now it's like I get to be a character. And that's kind of really like what I always wanted to be, was a character. I always liked, television, and I always like I love movies. Like I watch movies like I'm reading a book. Like I'm like, oh, what did you say? And so I always liked being the character. So I play this character for people, but really I am just who I am, and it's just like what I do. But yeah, I'm glad that I didn't take that route, and I'm glad that I ended up just going this way, because it's a cool existence. Like, I was at the pier the other day writing poetry for some people, and the guy behind me was like playing a saxophone, busking as well. I just started writing poetry to his saxophone, and then I just dropped it in his little, I was like, this poem's for you, man. Hope you write that Grammy song. Have fun. And it was just like, it's just cool. Like, so that's my office. My office is just like, and that's what I love. I love coffee shops. I love traveling, camping, and I can take my typewriter anywhere. And, social media has helped a lot, because you can kind of be anywhere and like still get, be connected to people. Mm-hmm. And so.
Yeah. Randy mentioned with Paper Seahorse, he says that young people they're buying typewriters like 4 or 5 a month. Like ages 9 to 13 they want the analog typewriter. And some of the parents have told them that these kids have been asking for it for years, for a typewriter. So it's like they want, and he's like, Maureen, it's crazy. Like we're selling like 4 or 5 a month of these typewriters for these 9 to 13-year-old kids. So everybody's worried so much about them being on social media, but here they're craving the analog. They're craving the tactile, the sound and everything that goes into a typewriter. And
yeah, I mean, there are, analog parts of our brain. A lot of, we just, And I think also like the typing, and then it's so helpful. I mean, like people like, oh, why do you like the typewriter? I'm like, well, it'd just be weird if I was out here with a computer, but also like, like a computer and a printer. Maybe I'll try it one time and see what that's like. But like, A, I just have I love the typewriter, and B, like it makes, you have to be so much better than just writing on a computer. And especially because like, I feel like A, I have to know how to spell something. And then B, if I don't have the word at my beck and call, like I gotta choose a different word. You know what I mean? Like I have to go to the, you know what I mean? So it forces me to be, there's no backspace, you know what I mean? So I kind of like, it's like mistakes are no longer mistakes. It's kind of like, you know, it's life, because you type a wrong word. Oh, well, next, you know, start off with something else. So yeah, I think the typewriter is like, you know, I had a kid the other day, 12 years old, came up to me at the pier. I wrote him a poem for his brother, and he was like, what's that? And I'm like, it's a typewriter. He goes, what does that do? And I go, it types. It's like a on-demand printer.
He didn't
and
know what a typewriter was.
No idea. And I was just like, he's like, wait, type something. And I typed something like hello. And he's like, you typed me a poem? And because he didn't know. And I was like, yeah. And I typed him a poem. And he was like 12. He was like, I'll give you $1. I'm like, just take the poem. It's all good, man. Don't worry about it. You know, it's like, sometimes it's just fun to just like, kind of like initiate someone into something that they've never like seen before. You know, like, whoa. Yeah. You know, they're so used to, you know, because I think back now, you know, like I wasn't always connected to a cell phone. Like I didn't get my cell phone till like pretty much end of high school. Yeah. So I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah,
so,
I was 35. My daughter's like, when do I get a cell phone? I go, well, you're the same age I was when I got a cell phone. Well, how old were you? I was 35. What?
Yeah, now it's like you have to have one, or like, you know.
She has a cell phone, but it's not cooked up. So she can have like Wi-Fi on it. Mm-hmm. And I still haven't, we're going to get her one eventually, but I said 9th grade because it's like, and it's like, everyone's like, well, they need to be safe. And I'm like, dude, we have payphones. Everyone around you has a cell phone. Like if you need a cell phone, you just ask the person standing next to you for a cell phone. Like, yeah, it's not about being safe. It's like, we didn't have that. Like,
I sometimes love leaving my cell phone at home. It's like, you know, and I think that's really why I like the typewriter, because the typewriter, I am present. Writing. Yeah. There is nothing else I'm doing. I'm not tabbing through anything. Yeah. I'm just, this is it. I have to write. It's like, it has one purpose. And I loved how friggin' awesome that it is, because they never thought it was going to get any better. So like, they just like, that was it. It was made like to last, you know. My typewriter is 70 years old. Yeah. You know, and it still types like, I don't know, maybe when it first got it, you know, I'm sure it's got a lot of, whoever gets that typewriter in the future will have a lot of stories for it. You know what I mean?
What typewriter is it?
It's a Hermes 3000.
Oh, even the name's cool.
Oh yeah. It just made sense. I got it from the Brocont Market.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's
Brocont. Yeah.
Right. And friend was just like, hey, would you be interested in this? And I was like, take a picture of it and sent it to me. Went over there. It was $120. I went through it real fast, saw it, and I was like, bought it because I could have put that thing on eBay the next day and sold it for $550. So like, because Hermes, like Jack Kerouac wrote on a Hermes 3000, an older one, but they're just really well made. They're durable. I mean, I think like, you know, from a business point of view, like I put $10 into it. My overhead is so low, you know, so like, you know, like I think I've cleaned it at one time, and it's like, I don't think that thing's not going anywhere, but I slapped stickers on it.
You get tips when you type? You ask for tips for
It's all donation. If you do it through my Instagram, I charge a certain number just because like, it's just easier for me to do it that way. Yeah. And then when on the street, it's donation. So like, if you see me on the street, it's more like an experience. If you hit me up on, you know, cause you're going to get it mailed, and then I always do the wax seal. So I got a little,
nice.
Yeah, I go old school with it. So it's like, that's cool. I just sent my first poem out to Scotland the other day.
Oh, cool.
So like, yeah, you gotta love the internet for something.
You gotta love the internet, right? Yeah. Especially your personality. You can Hey, it's Chia.
Yeah,
Do
what's
like a
going on?
live Instagram feed where people can comment, write words in the comments, and then you type a poem right there. That would
Yeah,
be really cool.
I've actually been thinking about doing that. Like, I built this table the other day, like, and it's like a small little table for the outside, and so I was typing poems outside because it's getting a little cooler,
Yeah.
and and like people would walk by, they'd be like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just writing poetry." Da, da, da. But I was actually thinking about streaming live, doing poems live, and then and then if you want to stop by,
Yeah.
stop on by, you
Yeah.
know.
Mm. Yeah.
So
It's like you're like the drive-through. You could be the poetry drive-through. Where like
yeah,
people could call for a to-go order of poetry.
yes, I'm hooked. You can. I'll be on Uber. So
You're gonna be like, okay, hello. Oh yeah, okay, it'll be ready in 15 minutes. Come pick up
yes,
the poem, and then you have it in a little.
I love that idea. I'm all about it. I even thought like
Yeah.
when everything was starting up, when everything was getting crazy, when everything was like, like I was even saying like if people were a little nervous to come up to me, I'd get like a little fishing hook and like,
A cast
and
net.
like take it, yeah, and then pull it back and then just keep doing it from my house.
That'd be
Um,
hysterical.
but it's just like
Go
there's,
fish. Go fish with poetry.
yeah,
It's like go fish, and you pull a poem up, and there you go.
anything
Well, I'm
goes.
gonna
You know
do
what I
an
mean?
event maybe with you with that, where there's
Okay,
fish with poetry. I think that would be so cool with kids.
that'd be fun.
You know what I mean?
Uh
Like
huh.
they oh my brain, I'm all over. So let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
Who are some of your favorite authors?
Ooh, well, I mean, as of recently, I just read The Tropic of Cancer.
Oh, Henry
From
Miller.
Henry Miller
Look,
is probably.
I'm gonna go off screen for a minute. I'm reading his book about Greece right now.
Oh, okay.
It's
Ooh,
travel writing. It's when Lawrence Durrell and if PBS has the show, and I think it's on Amazon Prime too. The Durrells of Corfu, and
okay.
Henry Miller's actually in the show. It's hysterical. And this is this book. He actually said this was his favorite book he wrote.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
uh,
I love him. A lot of women don't like him, but
I think I had read Tropic of Cancer. I'm in the process of reading it. Um, and then I love when I'm entrenched in a book, I'm just like, okay, who is this guy? And so I watched an hour long
oh yeah.
video of him give a talk,
Mhm.
and I love him because it's like he like gets me. I'm like, oh, he's like
Henry
he's
Miller.
like
Yeah, I love it.
he's like, just allow yourself to be lazy and give yourself the permission to go be poor. And I'm like, and then go to Paris too. Yes, thank you. Like I would totally. And so it's something about all of the like, J.D. Salinger, anybody who wrote in the first person, you
Mm.
know, I really have like, because I'm always, when I write stories, I kind of write in the first person, and it kind of gets a little Henry Miller, J.D. Salinger ish, like, you know, maybe like a social critique kind of
Mm.
like view of how I think the world looks, but Sylvia Plath from the Bell Jar.
Mm.
Anything that's kind of.
It's right there.
Oh, really?
It's right there. I could grab it. I'll show you my copy. I don't know. I'm not going to do that. It's up there.
Oh,
Yeah.
another book. What I read? I didn't. The Stranger by Albert Camus.
Yeah, that's a great book too.
I was like 120 pages of like.
There's so many great books of classic literature because everything's all about new, but it's like I just got Waiting for the Barbarians that I'm going to read, and I'm going to go down a John Steinbeck rabbit hole, and then I'm reading Henry Miller, and there's so many good books. Like we read Oh Pioneers with Willa Cather for our book club. Like there's so many good classic books of literature that just like it just takes you in there, and you're just like, oh my gosh, wow. Especially
Yeah,
now. This is a
it's
time to be reading.
it's a different time. Yeah, and it gets a just different feel. Like a lot of the reading, a lot of the I haven't really read like a. I started reading Dan Brown Origins. So I just like I read like 3 books at a time.
I read a lot of his books.
Yeah, I like him. I like the way he writes because I like factual stuff. So it's like kind of fun. It's like, oh, that's real, and then that's kind of not real. So it's fun that way. But overall, I would say you know, anyone from the Beat generation, like who was it, Andre Breton, the one who like kind of started like all that surrealist movement, anything that I can really kind of like use as kind of like a like I can look up to, because they were really, you know, wasn't, it was just like it was a different style. It was like, you know, and there was like this, specifically about what I liked about Henry Miller's is just like in the book, he has this incurable optimism. And I was like, that's mine now. Thank you very much, Mr. Henry Miller. And that's how I feel when I'm out there, like this, like, you know, I'm out here doing whatever I want, writing all sorts of crazy stuff for people. And like, how can life be negative? You know? So like, even on the rainiest day, you know, it's like, he's just like, oh, I had a good meal. You know, I wrote a couple pages. I'm like, a glass of wine. What else could be?
What else do you need? I know. I think about my life sometimes, and I'm just like, man, this rocks.
Yeah, I mean, you're like,
so cool. Yeah.
Not a lot of people get to do, I think, what they feel passionate about, or maybe just not a lot of people I've run into. I just feel like a lot of people maybe take a road just because they had to, and you know, so I always feel like an immense amount of gratitude just to be like, oh, I took a chance and it ended up working out.
Yeah.
You know.
That's why, in reading those writers, especially Henry Miller, I mean, he really, it was a very different time and things were a lot cheaper, but it still puts you in that kind of headspace of like allowing, and like, I mean, the Greek book, he's just like going around one corner and seeing what happens. And then, oh, that person looks like someone interesting to talk to, and I'll talk to them, and I'll follow this. And I love how primal he is, but then he goes into like, he's so earthy and primal, but then he gets into like the esoteric spiritual. And it's like, I live in those two worlds. Like I'm very primal and grounded and earthy, but then I'm always like, woo, spaced out. So I love his writing for that. I love
the spiritual side. Yeah. I mean, like, I think I feel like poets just end up like Henry Miller, and then like Blavatsky, I have her, The Secret Doctrine, like all that, like anything, like, cause I feel like poetry it's emotional. It's looking, I mean, it's also looking at what's in front of you, but like for me, it's a lot about looking beyond what is like. And so when I read those books, I get to be like, you know, the cup is not a cup. It's something else, you know?
Yeah, I get it. No, I get it. So one more question and then we'll hear one of your poems.
Okay.
What would be speaking of cup, your holy grail piece of writing advice?
Holy grail piece of writing advice. I think every day, just write every day. Like, even if you just give yourself like 30 minutes, just like go to the page and write, because I find that if I allow myself to write for just 30 minutes, like the automatic writing, like some of it's dribble, some of it's like you could just burn, and then like maybe there's like 3 paragraphs and they're like gold.
Yeah.
And then that's like, but it's like kind of getting into like that rhythm where you're writing. It doesn't have to be for anything. Just write for you.
Yeah. Because
something's going to come out sooner or later that I think it's like, whether it's your voice or whether it's just like something funny, it comes out, and then it like, I think you can build on that. That's what I do. I just build on it.
That's great. So let's hear some of your writing.
Okay.
Poetry.
So I'm going to read this from the screen because it's a poem that I wrote for someone who requested a poem. Her name's Olivia. She lives in Texas, and her word was gypsy. And so for me, moving around a lot when I was a kid, and like going to 3 different high schools, and then just like, but then also kind of like loving the road. Like that's kind of like, that's what I felt. And then, so this is what I wrote. It is just before dawn, and I can hear the West Coast ocean waves crashing. There is no void when the hammock is in full swing. I like the type of nights that bleed into the early morning, feeling the energy of the night and the stillness of the sunrise. And the sunbeams in my eyes puts me at ease. Some say they never surrender. I feel sorry for them, for I surrender to the highways and the byways of life. taking me places my mother and father have never been. Life magnifique, a 24-hour, 7 days a week retreat, a kind of bliss that Buddhas seek. No drawn out map. We may do a little of this, we may do a little of that, but our love is for the road, and we always come back. We refuse to get trapped in someone else's day-to-day grind. We make no effort to get ahead in the common man's dread. And if we make it big, then cheers to that. I'm going to ride this wave till it goes flat.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much, Gio.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Because we cross paths. You're friends with my cousin. I see you, but it's always like heightened environment. Hey, hey. And
yes.
That's why I love that. I love Typewriter Talks because I get to have like 30, 40-minute conversations with writers in my community. And it inspires me as a creative and hopefully people that watch this too. And also like, thank you for showing that there's not just one right way to be a poet. You could be a street poet, but wouldn't it be funny? This inspires a whole cottage industry of street poets, but
I hope so, just
and it,
command it.
You've got, we're not going to tell you where he lives in Crescent Lake. So you can go on a little scavenger hunt to try to find his little poetry installation to get a poem. So
yes, if you go to my Instagram, I always post my address on Instagram, even though that's probably not safe, but I post it on there anyways because I'm so trusting. And you can come by and just come to my poetry fence and grab one.
I love it. Thank you so much, Gio. And thank you so much for joining us for Typewriter Talks. We will be back next Tuesday. I think it's episode 28. Wow. And we are Keep St. Pete Lit. If you want to know more about our writing classes, poetry open mic, we're about to start a flash fiction night and book club. You can go to keepstpetelit.org. Thank you so much, Gio. And thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next week.